I could not be more excited. This is like possibly the best day of the season here. Underdog Fantasy has gone through and got a new contest set up for us where we can go through and do some real money fantasy football drafts. Now, yes, it's week 4 right now. It's week 4, and we're going to hop into these new drafts. Now, what's great about this contest is you're not going to be submitting your starting lineup through the rest of the year. You're not going to be even going and doing waiver wires. I mean, there's no access to the waiver wire. There are 18 rounds, and your best starting lineup at the end of every week is automatically submitted for you. So we're going to be able to hop in these drafts, have some fun, have some shot at some big money prizes. I cannot wait. So we were actually about to make a video right now, but I looked at it and I was like, you know what? We got the notification that this contest is live. I have to go through and I have to make sure that we are going to be one of the first people out here doing these drafts because I am so excited. And of course, if you have not already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this video, and most importantly, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Y'all know they are my favorite platform to play on. I mean, that's why I reached out to them and begged them to partner with this channel this season. I'm very happy that they decided to do that. And very happy that we're going to be able to get some more drafts going. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you actually get daily additional entries to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. You get a max deposit bonus to go along with this. You support this channel more than you would ever believe. You have access to a bunch of fun player props. You also have, the ability to get in these real money drafts throughout the season. We're going to be doing these maybe every day that they're available because I cannot be more excited for this. Scissors says he's already done one, and BFS coming out says, rank these 5 receivers rest of season full PPR: T. Higgins, Antonio Brown, Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, and Brandon Ayuk. Okay, so I was actually going through and playing around with my rankings earlier today. I'll say that the majority of these wide receivers are in the same tier for us. We are going to be going with T. Higgins at that first spot most likely. Then from there, I'd imagine that it's going to be close between all the other guys. BFS, I hate to say this, but they're literally in the same tier. Let me pull up my rankings right now to see where we officially came down to it because, this was a spot where I was kind of going back and forth with a lot of these options. But 1 second, I will pull up and share my screen with you all so y'all can see this draft board. I just want to make sure that we're able to answer this question right beforehand. And yeah, here, so if we're looking at T. Higgins, he's going to be our wide receiver 20 rest of season. Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver 21. Allen Robinson, wide receiver. Okay, this is not the updated one. This is not the updated one. Dear God. We're going to have to get back to that a little bit later on because I have no idea where we put those rankings. Okay, yeah, no, these should be the update. Okay, Higgins, wide receiver 20. Ayuk, wide receiver 31. Woods, wide receiver 30. Allen Robinson, wide receiver 23. And Antonio Brown, wide receiver 27. Okay, so now let me switch it over. Let me show y'all this draft board. I'm so excited. I could not be more excited about this. Okay, so here we go. And I imagine that we need to possibly change the way that this is set up. Yeah, so keep in mind, this is going to be a league that the points aren't going to get started until week 6. So I know Dalvin Cook, you're a little bit worried about the injury for now. Personally, we're just going to roll with Dalvin here. Let me make sure. Okay, yeah, so the screen's just fine. So Dalvin is going to be our first pick at the 104. And I'm going to try to get a considerable amount of these drafts underway. So make sure y'all go down there and also get ready for our next one. Get ready for our next one. I don't see anybody. I see Scissors out here in this draft at number 10. Okay, so Scissors is hopping into this already. Scissors got into a couple of these drafts with us leading up into the season. Now, let me also go through and change this live draft setup. Okay, so now you have Kelsey at the 106. I'll say Kelsey is just a bona fide stud at this point. I think you're looking at Travis Kelsey and you're saying that you probably have to be taking him above 99% of other players. And what's great is the ADP with this set is not going to be solid at all. There have only been I think maybe 100 drafts so far here. If there have only been 100 drafts, this will be a spot where we can definitely go through and take advantage and find some value if we're just going to be scrolling through that ADP list. So I may not necessarily be able to check the live chat as much as we were able to previously, but I think that it's understandable just because we're going to have to be making sure we're scrolling down because this ADP list is not going to be set up. We're essentially the first ones on here drafting, setting this ADP ourselves. So yeah, we're going to have to be scrolling. Scissors is on the clock here at the 110. Let me set up a poll. And also, if y'all have not dropped a like on this live stream yet, please go down there, drop that like. If you have not dropped a like, I have no idea what you were doing. Barkley goes to the 111. You have Stephon Diggs at the 110 by Scissors. Diggs going out there above Cooper Kupp. Not saying I hate it. I think that they are in the same exact tier, but just interesting. I can't wait to see how y'all are valuing these players. We may get in a couple drafts here today. We're going to get in a lot of drafts. I promise you that. I don't know if we're going to get in them all right now. Maybe we're going to do some more tonight during tonight's live stream as I'm answering your questions at the same time. Oh, this is just exciting. Okay, so now Najee Harris goes at the 202 here. Keep in mind, this is a league that the points are going to be scored from weeks 6 through 17. So we're not looking for points in weeks 4 or 5, essentially. Those are 2 weeks that we're not having to worry about. Ezekiel Elliott goes at the 203. Interesting to see Najee Harris go here before Ezekiel Elliott. Not saying I hate it, just saying interesting. Because obviously that's a massive change of what you had previously in drafts. Okay, DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm going to pull this up a little bit earlier than we usually do, but just because I'm looking at it saying, you know what? I mean, we definitely have to make sure that we are getting ready because I think the options at the top of the ADP aren't necessarily going to be the best options for us, just knowing that so much has changed here. Yeah, I just want to be scrolling through, looking at some of these ADP points because this ADP is not going to be set accurately for a very long time. I mean, you're just seeing kind of groupings of players here. So I'd imagine that people in drafts so far, I mean, Tyson Williams here at pick 68, that is obviously just atrocious. You have Tyson Williams ahead of James Robinson. That's why I have to make sure that we're scrolling down and we're looking for values across the board. Antonio Gibson goes to the 206. So when we have Dalvin Cook here, we're not panicking too much about seeing those running backs go off the board. Ooh, my bad. Sorry, guys. Okay, so Antonio Gibson. Raw here takes DK Metcalf. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Give him to us. Give him to us. Give him to us. No freaking way. There's no way we're getting Darren Waller at this pick, right? Darren Waller to start him off with Dalvin Cook. Like, am I missing something here? Did Darren Waller get hurt or something? Oh, this is a dream. I assume there was going to be no way that y'all were leaving us Darren Waller at the 209 here. I mean, getting this elite tight end has proven to be so effective so far this season that I think it's a no-brainer to go with Waller. You get DJ Moore at the 210. I'm going to imagine that people in these drafts right now aren't necessarily as tuned in as they were before the season. I think there's probably a decent amount of money to be made here just going through and crushing some of these drafts. Oh my God. I know I'm all over the place, but you cannot believe how excited I am to get into these drafts over the next couple days. I miss these drafts so much. There's nothing more fun on this planet than coming out and getting some of these best ball drafts in for Underdog Fantasy. I mean, that's why I reached out and begged them to sponsor this channel because how much fun we have doing this. Cooper Kupp goes at the 301. I didn't want to say his name because I thought there was a tiny chance he was going to be making it back to us. But how is Cooper Kupp now going behind Keenan Allen, DJ Moore? I would assume that Cooper Kupp is in the majority of these drafts going in the middle of the second round. Very surprising to see Cooper Kupp falling that far. CeeDee Lamb at the 302. Okay, so now let's scroll down because remember, I mean, this ADP list is all out of whack. I mean, you got Mike Williams available. Tyler Lockett goes. So we're going to get... Oh my gosh, this is a great start. This is... I know, I probably seem like I'm on drugs right now. I'm just so excited. But I'm excited that these drafts are back. I'm excited that we're going to be able to get into a ton of these drafts with y'all. And at the same time, I'm excited that we get Dalvin, Waller, Calvin Ridley to start off this draft. I know Calvin Ridley is someone that we are actually talking about on what should have been a video coming out in a couple hours. But I mean, I think that we're actually going to most likely delay that video until tomorrow, just because I want to probably be getting a couple more of these drafts in later on. So yeah, we're going to take Calvin Ridley here at the 304. That is a no-brainer. Adam coming out says, trade Ezekiel Elliott, Jamar Chase, and Chris Godwin for Tyreek Hill. Full PPR, 8-man league. In an 8-man format, I mean, really all that matters is the top-end studs. But at the end of the day, you're just giving out way too much value for trading Zeke, Chase, and Godwin for Tyreek Hill, even though I know we want to go through and we just want to shoot for the moon in an 8-man league. But still, I don't think you can go through and do that. Mike Williams goes at the 307 here. And please let me know your opinion on what values you're seeing on the board, what players you think are drastically being overvalued, just knowing that, I mean, it's not like the drafts that we were doing coming into this season where there were already hundreds of thousands of drafts on the books. I mean, there was already a really concrete ADP list. Now it's going to be all over the place. You're going to see one draft that you're in look completely different from the next. So we'll try to get in multiple drafts. Of course, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. Get the max deposit bonus. At the same time, support this channel. Get into these drafts with us. Get additional daily entries to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. Okay, let me go through and... Okay, so now after this, we got Carson at the 309, AJ Brown going here at the 308. Keep in mind, this is a league that doesn't really start until week 6, so you're not going to have to really worry about AJ Brown missing the next 2 weeks with a hamstring strain. Now, you just have a lot of wide receivers going off here in the 3rd round. This is what I just kind of got used to in all the drafts that we did so far this offseason. So, I mean, I guess that this is something that's not changing too much here. I mean, if we're looking at the value available to us on the board, I mean, it's not necessarily going to be screaming that you have to take a running back here when it's like David Montgomery and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, I mean, down here, you have some other running backs that still are not that intriguing. Ooh, I got some ideas of what we're going to be doing at the running back position a little later on. I got some ideas. Kyler Murray at the 312 seems pretty damn aggressive for Kyler Murray. Obviously, Kyler's been on fire as of late. I just think that maybe I'm just using a broken brain. I just imagine we want to continue to slam the wide receivers there and just get quarterback a little bit later. Okay, now we got Jamar Chase at the 402. Scissors took Chris Godwin over Chase. Evans, Julio, completely fine with the Godwin pick. What I really want to see is where the hell does Robert Woods go? I mean, Robert Woods was the hardest player for me to update in our rest of season rankings. I was about to upload those rest of season rankings on Patreon, but then we got the notification that these drafts were live, and I was like, you know what? We can't wait a single second. We have to go through. We have to get some of these going. So, yeah, we are going to get the rest of season rankings updated on Patreon probably as soon as we end this live stream, but I just had to get this stream going. TJ Hawkinson does go at the 404. We have Edit718 says, in a full PPR, add Cole Beasley over Miles Sanders and Tim Patrick. I would prefer Cole Beasley over Miles Sanders. I'm sorry, not Miles Sanders, Emmanuel Sanders and Tim Patrick. I mean, Cole Beasley, yes, you're not going to see the touchdown rate necessarily being that high, just understanding that he's a wide receiver that's getting the majority of his targets closer to the line of scrimmage. But still, at the end of the day, this is someone that has such a high target share in what should be one of the most productive offenses in the NFL. Allen Robinson goes at the 405 here. Okay, so with Allen Robinson, obviously a fall from where he was going in the middle of the 3rd previously. I still think that maybe is a little too high for Allen Robinson. Great value on George Kittle at the 406. There's a massive premium in walking away with an elite tight end out of this group. Now, David Montgomery obviously falling due to the concerns that you have with Justin Fields, which is completely understandable. T. Higgins goes at the 407 here. Ooh, this is going to be tough for our next pick. Patrick Mahomes is off the board. Scrolling down to making sure that we're not missing out on any given player. I think we have to probably go Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. I don't necessarily love it, but like the running back position, we don't want any part of this tier. I think this tier, there are a bunch of landmines that we would probably just rather avoid. So we're going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he's actually a sell high in the majority of leagues right now because, I mean, I'd imagine that you actually have the majority of leagues looking at Clyde Edwards-Helaire going way before this, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire being valued over these guys like Amari Cooper, A.J. Brown, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, I mean, even T.J. Hawkinson, George Kittle. But if we're getting him at the 409, that's going to be perfectly fine value. And then Pedro coming out says, should I trade Devontae Smith and Najee Harris for DeAndre Hopkins? You can't trade Najee Harris right now for DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, Harris is just a player that has a ridiculous workload in his offense to the point where you could never consider making that move. Cortland Sutton at the 411. David Montgomery at the 412. And of course, if y'all want to go sign up for Underdog Fantasy, you can find a link in the description of the live stream. You can also find that link in the live chat. Make sure you're going through that link and using promo code FLOCK so you get the max deposit bonus and also daily entries to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. Now, David Montgomery goes to the 412. Really like seeing David Montgomery go once we take Clyde Edwards-Helaire here, knowing that we're most likely wanting to just have a wide receiver making it back to us. Now, Kyle Pitts, I don't even hate this value with Kyle Pitts. It's just really hard to take him whenever we do have Darren Waller here. Okay, so now with our next selection, God, this ADP is just all messed up. Because the Nelson football goes Kyle Pitts at the 502. Okay, honestly, I like to see that. I think it's good value with Kyle Pitts. I just don't want to be tempted whenever we have Waller on the roster. Miles Sanders, after just the Philadelphia Eagles completely collapsed last night, I don't think we can consider Miles Sanders here, even though he was a player I was previously drafting every time he fell to us at the 504. I think we honestly just may have to take our L and move on. And instead, we're most likely just going to be coming away with a wide receiver here, knowing that we're thin on wide receiver with only one so far in this roster. And this is a league where you have to start 3 wide receivers every single week. I think if we continue to punt the position, it's going to be pretty hard for us. So knowing that I would really like to set up a Trey Lance stack later on, I think Deebo Samuel is very intriguing here. Y'all know I'm also not a massive fan of Deontay Johnson. Let's just get Deontay Johnson out. No, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're taking Deebo Samuel. I can't justify myself taking Deontay Johnson. So I know Deebo Samuel is looking like a reach there, but I'm honestly kind of fine with the reach, knowing that we need another wide receiver coming in when we only have Calvin Ridley so far in this roster. And at the same time, if we're talking about stacks that we could be setting up later on, I really like getting Trey Lance at a massive discount. Okay, Big Trap says, if I were to join an underdog draft and I was picking at the 101, would CMC still be a good pick? I think it would be a fine selection. I actually probably would go Christian McCaffrey, knowing that your league isn't going to start counting points until week 6. So yeah, I think that we actually probably go Christian McCaffrey at the 101 here. If these leagues were starting points right now, like if you had to score points in weeks 4 and 5 as well, then Christian McCaffrey probably wouldn't be my call. But I think that if you're picking at the 101 in a league where this is going to start week 6, I think that's perfectly fine. Okay, so now Javonte Williams to the 506. Not going to lie, Javonte Williams would have been the running back that we would have taken here at the 504, knowing that his role should continue to expand, and he's looked very great in limited opportunity. I know he has the fumble in the red zone this past week. I don't necessarily think that needs to be drastically changing our evaluation of Javonte Williams, though. Deontay Johnson at the 507. Okay, Millrat on the clock here. Where are they going to go? They're taking this down to the very last second, where they go with Lamar Jackson at the 508. I think Lamar is a perfectly fine value at the 508. I was actually drafting him very often in this range coming into the season, viewing him as a player that, yes, I mean, don't love what you're going to get in the passing game, but just his rushing production alone makes it where you have to be very excited about Lamar Jackson. Love both Kareem Hunt and Darrell Henderson here as well at the 510 to 511 with Kareem Hunt. This is a player that we are consistently drafting in the 6th round coming into the season, understanding that if anything were to occur to Nick Chubb, he all of a sudden vaults up to being an elite level running back. And at the same time, he also has a very high floor given the role that he has in this offense. I mean, we kind of saw it this past week where he actually goes out there and he outproduces Nick Chubb in that same offense. Now, Darrell Henderson, Josh Jacobs. I mean, Jacobs was also a player I was taking here consistently at the end of the 5th, the beginning of the 6th. So this range kind of seems familiar. I mean, the one thing that you have here is just TJ Hawkinson no longer being available. Obviously, Hawkinson flies up to the 404. Michael Pittman at the 601, Odell Beckham Jr. at the 602. I really like that Odell pick, like compared to Michael Pittman. I think here with Pittman, it's probably going to be hard to justify that selection with the overall collapse of the Indianapolis Colts offense. I'm probably looking to avoid the offense at, I don't want to say all costs, but we're definitely looking to avoid that Indianapolis Colts offense where we can. Now, James Robinson at the 603. That has to be the best value of the draft so far. James Robinson at the 603, getting him behind Hunt, Henderson, Jacobs. Sam says trade Odell Beckham Jr. and Lamar Jackson for Patrick Mahomes and Kareem Hunt. Yes, definitely make that trade. Okay, so now let's just kind of get a feel of who we're going to be going with our next selection right now. Like I said, I mean, when we used to live stream these drafts every single day, we were able to wait until we were almost on the clock to pull up this player list. But the problem is now just so much has changed. I mean, this ADP list isn't good at all, where we definitely have to be scrolling through, trying to find values instead of just having those values fall to us. Okay. Like, this running back tier is pretty damn gross. I don't necessarily know if we want to be going with the running back here. Tony Pollard at the 607. Tony Pollard before Mike Davis. You'll love to see it. Mark Andrews goes good. I didn't want to have to be tempted with Mark Andrews when we had Darren Waller here. Really going to come down to, I mean, are we taking a wide receiver? These quarterbacks I'm not interested in when we don't have the stack. If we're going to take a wide receiver, I think that we do have to be just aware of the ADP, knowing that we can get a player falling back to us a little bit later on. So he has a horrendous week this past week. And I mean, the offense looks like it's collapsing at the moment. But maybe just taking Devontae Smith here as our wide receiver 3 would be advantageous, knowing that we have to make sure we get our wide receivers in this format as they are going to dry up very quickly. And we also know this is someone that can continue to improve as the season goes on. If we get the improvement from the Philadelphia Eagles offense, this league doesn't start until week 6. So yeah, let's go Devontae Smith here. Now, Percy White says Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins for Christian McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook. I have Kupp and Terry McLaurin still. If you're playing in a very shallow format, I'm fine making that trade. If you're playing in a 12-man league where you can start up to 3 or 4 wide receivers, however, I think there you just have to most likely hold on to the 2 stud wide receivers, and that both Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins are players you should be very excited about for the long term. Now, Justin Herbert goes at the 612. Honestly, I'm completely fine seeing Justin Herbert go. Tyler Boyd at the 701. At the 704, where are we going to be going? Oh my gosh, Robbie Anderson just plummeting. Obviously, this was a player going in the 5th round coming into this year. Now, I mean, we're at the 704, and I wouldn't even consider Robbie Anderson here, to be completely honest. Now, if we were going to talk about a stack, we don't have any potential stacks, so I'm not going to be too excited about taking a quarterback. Yes, we're willing to take a quarterback without a stack if they do represent just massive value. I don't necessarily think either one of Tom Brady or Russell Wilson at this point are just guys that we can't pass up on. Now, the question is, do we just have to take Mike Davis here? Y'all know this was someone we were never drafting, and we were laughing at people drafting him in the 5th round. No, we're not going to take Mike Davis. Knowing how wide receivers are going to dry up later on in this draft, I think we have to continue to hammer in the wide receiver position. Now, the question is, what wide receiver are we actually going to go with out of this list? I mean, both wide receivers failing with their quarterbacks here. Let's just take Corey Davis. I mean, with Corey Davis, he is that alpha wide receiver for the New York Jets. He's proven that from a target share perspective. Now, yes, it's very hard to rely on the New York Jets in the slightest. Maybe I'm just going through and not being willing to scroll down in ADP enough, knowing this ADP list is very bad and we should not really be looking at it at all. So that's maybe an oversight by me. Maybe we took it down to the last second and really didn't have the chance to think. I think from here on out, we have to start looking at this board 5 picks out, and I'll try to talk a little bit less, try to think a little bit more. I know that we want a wide receiver here at this selection. I think taking Corey Davis over these wide receivers, however, probably a mistake. I mean, like I said, I really want to emphasize the fact that we're not looking for points over the next 2 weeks. Mainly in this league, you're trying to get points during the fantasy football playoff stretch. There's a $20,000 prize at the very top of this, so we definitely want to have the highest ceiling possible here. So, I mean, maybe we're just making a bet that Zach Wilson in this offense does find a way to just improve slightly. And with Corey Davis, we've already seen him have a very solid week in week 1. And like I said, I mean, he is drawing the targets. Matt says, in Dynasty, I want to go after CeeDee Lamb. Team is Kyler Murray, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Mark Andrews, Brandon Ayuk, Cortland Sutton, Javonte Williams. Who should I try to offer? My play here would most likely be trying to package together Mike Evans and Cortland Sutton. I think that's a trade you could easily get done for CeeDee Lamb, to be honest. And also at the same time, if you're looking at CeeDee Lamb from a dynasty football perspective, this is someone that will be a cornerstone asset for your team for the next decade. Whereas with Mike Evans and Courtland Sutton, I mean, Mike Evans was drafted back in 2014. He was drafted at 21 years old coming out of Texas A&M. So he's still younger than most people would expect, but we know that his value is not going to really go up at all from here. And Courtland Sutton was an older prospect in that 2018 draft class. So, I mean, he is more so in his prime currently. I think CeeDee Lamb is an asset that can continue to rise in value. Okay, so now here, Tyler Higbee goes at the 7-11. Love seeing Higbee go at the 7-11 when we have Darren Waller. We want to see more of these tight ends go off the board. Jerry Jeudy at the 7-12, as well as Rondale Moore. Okay, so some wide receivers that can be producing at a high level once we get to that fantasy football playoff stretch. Stafford at the 8-02. Okay, Scissors is on the clock. So Scissors decided to go with Brandon Ayuk here at the 7-10. I mean, you're looking at him so far building a team with a running back position of Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, James Robinson. At wide receiver, he has Stephon Diggs, Chris Godwin, Adam Thielen, and Brandon Ayuk. If I was going to do anything differently on this team, I think, yeah, you definitely have to take Adam Thielen here. If you wanted to pass on a tight end, I think taking a tight end here could have its merits if you wanted to go with George Kittle at the 403. Honestly, that's probably what I would have done. Zeke, love it at the 203. Diggs, completely fine with it at the 110. Yeah, I think really the only call I would have done differently if I was Scissors here is I was most likely just would have taken one of those elite tight ends at the 403 in George Kittle. I mean, I would take George Kittle over TJ Hawkinson. Okay, so now our next pick off the board, Jalen Hurts at the 804, despite the very tough performance against the Dallas Cowboys. Pretty bad defense last night. I am surprised to see that you have Jalen Hurts there at the 804, to be honest. Tyson Williams at the 805. So Tyson Williams obviously looking like he is losing this role currently in Baltimore, running back that we are definitely trying to sell high on earlier on. I didn't necessarily think that you would have access to... Actually, we need to stop talking. We need to look at what pick our next one's going to be ASAP. Okay, so now if we're looking at this, I mean, Juju obviously appealing. I think we honestly probably go with another wide receiver here. Melvin Gordon, someone I'm not really looking at all, just knowing the fact that if we're going to see that role continue to shrink over the coming weeks, there's no reason to make that bet on him right now. There's some other running backs later on that I'd be perfectly fine getting. Instead, I think we're just going to roll out and go with the wide receiver here. Juju does go off the board, as well as Jamal Williams. Now, I think if you can try to talk me into anything, maybe you're looking at a tight end. But to be honest, we have Darren Waller. When we take Darren Waller in the second round, that's more so with the thought process that we are going to be trying to wait as long as we can to get our second tight end here. Instead, I think we go with a Kenny Golladay. Yes, we're going to be taking Golladay over Fuller, Robbie Anderson, DJ Chark. We know Golladay does have that extremely high average depth of target. This is someone that can see those spike weeks, and in the best ball format, I think we can get excited about it. So let me show y'all the draft board really quickly. Like I said, this is a real money fantasy football draft. Y'all can get into these drafts with us. Just go to the description of the video, sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. We're going to be doing a ton of these throughout the season. I'm so excited about this. So at running back, Dalvin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. At tight end, Darren Waller. At wide receiver, we have Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Smith, Corey Davis, and Kenny Golladay. I know we have taken some of these wide receivers here over running backs or quarterbacks you would probably prefer. One thing you have to understand about Underdog Fantasy is that those wide receivers are going to get pushed up draft boards, understanding that, I mean, just from a roster construction standpoint, when you can start 4 wide receivers every week and it's best ball at the same time, I mean, prioritizing wide receiver depth is going to be very important, where the wide receivers at the end of the draft are going to be disgusting, and we don't have access to the waiver wire to bring in and just improve our depth here. So you are going to definitely want to go through and try to just pick up some wide receiver depth in those middle rounds. Andrew says, is DeAndre Swift still a top 10 running back this year, Swift or Terry in the flex? Okay, so I'll say, I mean, with DeAndre Swift, he is definitely going to be at least in the conversation for a top 10 running back. I don't necessarily know exactly where we would draw that line. I will pull up my rest of season rankings right now, and I'll let you know exactly where I have DeAndre Swift. I have DeAndre Swift at running back 12. I am directly behind Mixon, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott. And you know what? Based on the limited usage in the receiving game that Joe Mixon has had over the past 2 weeks, we would be willing to move DeAndre Swift up over Joe Mixon. So we're going to move DeAndre Swift to running back 11, only behind Harris, Chubb, Barkley, Eckler, and Ezekiel Elliott, and then obviously all the studs as well. Okay, so now let's pull this back up and let's try to figure out where we're going to go with our next selection. I think here we can begin to look back at the running back position now. I know that we haven't had exactly what we would have wanted to see so far from A.J. Dillon, but I think he is slightly intriguing. But you know what? Instead, we're going to continue to draft wide receivers knowing that they're most likely going to dry up very soon. Let's get... Actually, no, we're going to get Michael Gallup in here. Let's take Michael Gallup. With Michael Gallup, this is someone that I'm hoping will be back by the time we get to week 6. Looking at him as a key piece in this Dallas Cowboys passing attack. I think that just continuing to load up on these wide receivers for this format in particular, like I said, if this was a regular fantasy football draft, we would not be taking Michael Gallup here. But since this league doesn't start until week 6, we are going to imagine that Michael Gallup is good to go by the quote-unquote start of this season. And then also viewing him compared to Jacoby Myers, I think we can just be a lot more excited about this Dallas Cowboys offense. And then Zach says, CMC owner wants a pairing of Jones and Diggs or Adams and Taylor, 10-man PPR. I'm sorry, Zach, you can't trade that for Christian McCaffrey at this point. I mean, I think you're just giving up way too much if you're trading away like Devontae Adams and Jonathan Taylor. Devontae Adams is in that elite tier of not only wide receivers, obviously, but just players overall. So I think that would be just way too aggressive to make that trade, to be honest. Okay, so now Sterling Shepard goes at the 907. Okay, so once we load up on wide receiver like this, we are honestly kind of hoping that teams are going to continue to draft the wide receiver position, and you kind of have to, given this format in particular. Now, what's nice about this live stream right now is the people that are in this draft with us, they're not necessarily watching the live stream, whereas the majority of the live streams in the drafts that we did leading into the season, it was almost everybody that was in the draft was watching the live stream, so it was a lot harder to talk about what I think should be happening, where I would go with a certain pick. But now I think we can talk about that freely. Where I know Scissors is in this live stream right now. He actually joined this draft without even knowing that we were going to be getting on this on the stream. But outside of that, I don't necessarily know if any of these other people are watching the stream right now, so I can go through and I can talk freely about this. Robbie Anderson at the 909. So Robbie Anderson just plummeting right here. Dallas Goedert at the 910. And a reminder, when y'all are signing up for Underdog Fantasy to get into drafts with us, to get additional entries to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat, and as well as go get some player props, to get a max deposit bonus with promo code FLOCK, make sure you're going through the link in the description of the video and also the link in the live chat. Either one should be completely fine. Jacob says, what do you think of getting Javonte Williams or for Deebo Samuel? It's going to depend on the league that you're playing in. If you're playing in a league where you start 3 wide receivers and it's a 12-man format, I think that depth at the wide receiver position is going to matter a little bit more there. Whereas if this is just a 10-man league where we know that really the only thing that matters is the actual upside that you are getting at running back, there I would prefer just to get Javonte Williams, knowing that this is someone that we have seen that role consistently increase. But it's really going to matter. It's really going to depend on the actual league format you're in, as well as the roster construction. Okay, Robert Tunyon at the 1001. Justin Fields at the 911. Justin Fields, after just an abysmal performance, of course, this is someone that still does have a considerable amount of upside. I mean, if he can get his feet going on the ground, but I think at this point, it's hard to say that with confidence. I think that we would probably be passing on Justin Fields here at the 911 and Sony Michel at the 1002. Don't really understand that Sony Michel selection, if we're going to be honest. Maybe you're just that excited about the Los Angeles Rams offense, which, I mean, is understandable when you have Matthew Stafford here. But also when you take Darrell Henderson, I hate handcuffing your running back with Sony Michel. So I'm not a big fan of that selection in the slightest. Now to this, Scissors took Dallas Goedert at the 910, Leonard Fournette at the 1003. Okay, so it looks like running backs getting gross. I mean, Scissors, I don't necessarily understand going with Leonard Fournette here whenever Giovanni Bernard does take that passing down role from him in Tampa this past week. I think that Leonard Fournette is still in that same touch squeeze we had to be worried about coming into the season. Going Fournette at the 1003, probably not something I would have done, to be honest. Now, let me pull this up because obviously this ADP list is not coming close to being set just yet. So we're going to have to definitely go through and make sure that we are continuing to try to find some value here. Now, we do have 6 wide receivers, but I'm not going to be afraid to continue to draft receiver, knowing that later on in the draft, this is going to be a very gross position where I would rather just be avoiding the players in this range where we can get running backs and quarterbacks instead. So Milrat on the clock. They have 4 running backs already with Mixon, Sanders, Mike Davis, Tyson Williams. So if they want to go with another running back, they can. I'd imagine that they possibly have to go with a tight end here. Okay, they go Trey Sermon, and actually that looked like it was an auto pick. So now they have 5 running backs. I'd imagine that team is close to being dead with the current wide receiver room that they have, unless Allen Robinson's able to just completely transform what he's actually done so far this season. Alexander Madison goes at the 10:06. Obviously, Alexander Madison with the massive performance this past week. But by the time this league gets started in week 6, you should definitely expect that Dalvin Cook is going to be good to go. Zach Moss at the 10:07. That's the pick that I really like. I mean, Zach Moss, I was drafting here in the 10th round a lot coming into the season. I think that we can be excited about that. Now, at this point, it really comes down to, are we going to take a running back or are we going to take a wide receiver? And looking at the picks before us, I mean, between us, a lot of these players really don't have access to the ability to pass on the wide receiver position. So I think that there's no chance we get Laviska Shenault and Mecole Hardman making it back to us. So we're going to take our most likely 7th wide receiver here. Yeah, let's go through and let's grab Laviska Shenault. Just looking at how this draft board is shaping up, I think it's definitely going to be the best value at receiver. Keep in mind, this is a best ball format where you don't have access to the waiver wire. You have to start 3 wide receivers every week. You have a flex to go along with it. I mean, your automatic best starting lineup gets submitted for you every single week. So A.J. Dillon was definitely the best available, but I think we had to go receiver here. James White goes to the 10:11. Is James White still alive? Does James White still have a pulse? Can someone confirm that for me? I'm very surprised to see James White going there at the 10:11. Yeah, if we would have had Zach Moss falling to us at the 10:09, we most likely would have gone Zach Moss. I think that we just have to just get whatever we can left at the wide receiver position, knowing that it's about to be very, very gross. And obviously, you're not that excited about Laviska Shenault, but I think at the 10:09, it's a completely fine selection. Now, Michael Carter at the 11:01. Great pick on Michael Carter there. Great pick on Michael Carter. Now at the 11:04, where are we going to be looking? I think we honestly may have to make a pivot here, and we may have to go with a quarterback, knowing that quarterback's going to dry up very soon, and I'm completely fine with the value that we're getting here with Joe Burrow in the 11th round. So yeah, I think we're going to go Joe Burrow here. Yeah, let's go Joe Burrow. I was like sitting here trying to take it down to the wire, see if we could think about Devin Singletary. But when I think we have Dalvin Cook and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we already have a very high floor with what we're going to expect from our running back position on a week-to-week basis. We can try to find some upside later on. So yeah, Rashad Bateman at the 11:05. Great pick with Rashad Bateman, knowing that he will be back by the time we get to week 6. Rashad Bateman is definitely someone, I think, if you're going to be able to get him in the 11th round, knowing the upside that he has for a format like this, that is a no-brainer. Norris coming out in the general chat says, did Josh Gordon get picked yet? LOL. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We already got that out here. We already got the trolls out here talking Josh Gordon. Devin Singletary at the 11:06. So yeah, this was definitely going to be the running back that we were considering if we did not take Joe Burrow at the 11:04. Derek Carr at the 11:07. Okay, so if we're getting these quarterbacks in this tier off the board at this point, I think we probably have to be excited about our Joe Burrow selection. And with Burrow, yes, he hasn't necessarily been ramping up the passing volume by any means, but I still think if you're looking at the efficiency that he's had so far this season, also based on the fact that you should continue to expect Jamar Chase to get better in this offense, I think we can be excited about that selection of Joe Burrow. Self-Made Fantasy says Justin Tucker's field goal was 19 yards longer than the entire Bears offense on Sunday. Oh my gosh, that's really funny. That's really funny. RIP Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. Jarvis Landry at the 11:08. Nick says, bro, how do I find the drafts you're in? So we are going to be getting into the main, I believe it's called the Redemption. Let me look up what the contest is actually called. It's going to be the main one that they are currently doing. It's going to be the Best Ball Resurrection. And we're going to maybe get into another one after this one. We're definitely going to be getting into a ton of these throughout the entire season. I mean, y'all know when we live stream every single night answering questions, we're most likely going to be going through and jumping into these every single one of those live streams. So you're going to have a million shots to get into a draft with us. If you go use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, make sure you go through the description of the live stream. Make sure you go through the comment section. Make sure you go through the live chat. Find one of those links. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up so you get the max deposit bonus, and you also get a Fantasy Flock Network hat additional entry every single day to win that giveaway. Outside of that, I mean, really, this is going to be a ton of fun. Now, thank God we get some more wide receivers going off the board. Love the Curtis Samuel and Terrace Marshall selections as wide receivers that can be back by the time we get to week 6. I mean, in the case of Curtis Samuel, and then also with Terrace Marshall, this is someone that can continue to expand his role. He played the most snaps of the season in week 3. It looks like he is going through in the right direction. Alan says, Chiefs officially signed Josh Gordon. Yes, I know, and yes, I don't care. I'm going to say this right now just because I really don't want to have to be answering questions about Josh Gordon. So Josh Gordon, we're pulling it up. The last time Josh Gordon came out and was an impact player of any kind was 2013. The last time Josh Gordon was an impact player was 2013. You know where I was? What has happened since 2013 for my own personal life? Just to go through and give y'all a good reference point on what's happened since Josh Gordon was last an effective wide receiver you were playing in fantasy drafts. I graduated from middle school, went from middle school to high school, went all 4 years through high school, graduated from high school, went enrolled in the University of Texas at Austin, graduated with multiple degrees, moved across the country, started a fantasy flock empire. Last time Josh Gordon was good, I was literally in middle school. I was like, why are we talking about this? We saw him with Tom Brady in New England in 2019. He had 28 receiving yards a game. You're telling me he's gotten better in the past 2 years? Like, I saw a video of someone coming out and saying that they wanted to be picking up Josh Gordon and spending like 20% of their fab on him. I was like, that is just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He played with Tom Brady a couple years ago. He played with Tom Brady and had 28 passing yards a game. I guess now our next pick coming up. It's not going to be Josh Gordon. I'm telling you that for sure. Jonnu Smith at the 1207. We are going to be looking for those tight ends. We're going to be hoping that they go off the board right now. Okay, so I think we are just going to end up taking Ronald Jones here. Obviously, Ronald Jones, not a running back that we're excited about in the slightest, as it looks like he really has a very limited role on this offense. But I think getting him as your running back 3 is going to make a lot of sense here. If we were going to be taking him ahead of wide receivers like Nelson Aguilar, Devontae Parker, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I don't think there's a significant opportunity cost. And we're also looking a little bit later on at the running back position, got like Ty Johnson, J.D. McKissick, Kenneth Gainwell, Damian Williams, Tony Jones, Anthony McFarland, David Johnson, Philip Lindsay. Like, I think he has a clear tier ahead of all these running backs. Okay, so now Dino coming out says, traded Devin Singletary for Javonte Williams somehow. Running backs are now Ezekiel Elliott, Chase Edmonds, Javonte Williams, Trey Sermon, Tony Pollard, and wide receivers are Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson, T. Higgins, Rondell Moore, and Brandon Ayuk. What running back and wide receiver upgrade should I be looking to package together to get a running back upgrade? Okay, so I'll say really love the trade first off, trading Devin Singletary for Javonte Williams. That is just absolutely fantastic. Now, if we're looking to make a trade from here, I think our most probable trade that we're trying to make is trading the combination of Trey Sermon and Tony Pollard. I know that you have Ezekiel Elliott on this roster, so you have that handcuff. I don't care about handcuffing in the slightest. I actually think that it's actively bad, and while raising the floor of your team, lowering its ceiling at the same time. So I would be looking to avoid that scenario, and instead, I would most likely try to package them together to pick up the best running back that you can. Because at wide receiver here, when we have Ridley, Allen Robinson, T. Higgins, Rondell Moore, Brandon Ayuk, I think that a couple of these guys are going to see their value increase over the coming weeks. So there's no reason to go out of your way and just try to get anything you can for them right now. I think we would rather just wait a little bit and see if their value can increase. Okay, so now I'm put in a very tough spot here. Do we just have to go quarterback? Do we have to go Matt Ryan? There's a player on the board right now that is a ridiculous value, like an absurd value. I can't say his name because I'm really hoping that he falls to us. But we're going to be put in a spot where it's most likely my own fault for thinking that we can find that quarterback value later on, like we were able to do at the beginning of the season. I mean, with those drafts leading into the year, but I guess now the draft boards have dramatically changed. So I guess now maybe we have to be moving these quarterbacks up. I mean, I don't necessarily regret passing on these options here. Maybe if we could go back, we could take the play. You know what it was? This was a horrendous selection of Corey Davis. This was a horrendous selection. Corey Davis is very similar to some of the other wide receivers we're seeing down here. This draft board definitely looks a lot different than what we actually had coming into the year. So thank God we got this practice under our belt so we can go out here, take these lessons, and crush the next drafts we're going to be doing this week. But this was just a massive blunder where, yeah, the running backs here weren't exciting at all. But just because the running backs weren't exciting, that didn't mean we automatically just had to go and jam in a wide receiver. What it probably meant is we should have just been going with a quarterback. We should have just got a quarterback option like Matthew Stafford or Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that was a bad call by me. Matthew says, we graduated from UT Austin the same exact year. My friend, I'm happy to hear that. Let me know if you graduated in 2021. Graduated in 2021. I mean, obviously, just a stud right there. Okay, I don't know what I just messed up this live stream. Okay, actually, no, we're pretty good. Okay, so now our next pick, Kenneth Gainwell at the 1309. I'll actually say Kenneth Gainwell is one of my massive misses coming into this year. Kenneth Gainwell used to go at the very end of these drafts, and I was sitting here saying, oh, no, we would never consider Kenneth Gainwell with this selection just because we thought that Boston Scott was going to be splitting that secondary role with Kenneth Gainwell. But no, with Boston Scott not being involved whatsoever, I actually think that it's a pretty damn good selection to go with Kenneth Gainwell here at the 1309. Scissors takes Hunter Renfrow at the 1310. Scissors, that's a really bad pick, my friend, and I'll show you why in a second. I can't say exactly why right now, but just let me go through and pray that our guy falls to us with this next selection. Colin says, am I missing something? Didn't Hamler tear his ACL? Why is he being drafted? Okay, where did Hamler get drafted here? KJ Hamler got drafted at the 212. Let me pull this up with KJ Hamler here. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, this is not looking like a great pick. And I'd imagine this is maybe someone just not necessarily knowing what they're doing, but you know who knows exactly what they're doing. The team taking Michael Thomas at the 13-12. This is why that Corey Davis selection is so damn bad. When this league doesn't start until week 6, Michael Thomas here should be going 7 rounds before this. He should be going 7 rounds before this. Please, because I want one of y'all winning this contest. There's $20,000 at the top of this contest. So I want y'all to be able to take advantage of some mispriced players right now when this ADP data isn't set. Go get into as many of these drafts as you can. And when Michael Thomas has his ADP down here, you need to be taking him in the 10th round every single time. Like I said, this is our first time ever hopping into this draft with this ADP set, so we haven't necessarily been able to figure out the optimal way to go through and navigate this quite yet. I bet you will figure that out in the live stream tonight at the very latest. But, I mean, the first thing that we need to adjust for is the fact that for whatever reason, Michael Thomas being down here at the 13-12 is just the value of the century. Please go and get in as many of these underdog drafts as you can. And in every single one, go and try to get Michael Thomas in the 10th round. That is fantastic. Yeah, so Scissors says, I know. Yeah, Scissors. So that's why I was saying this Hunter Renfrow pick was so bad. It's because Michael Thomas was right here. So I was saying, no, you can't get excited about that. Now, Chuba Hubbard at the 1404. Okay, so now let me go through and change this up. Jameis Winston goes to the 1405. I was going to say, okay, if Jameis fell to us with our next selection, we would probably be kicking ourselves for having to go Matt Ryan over Michael Thomas. Looking at Michael Thomas on the board, I was like, okay, well, there's a slight chance that he actually makes it back looking at this ADP. And at the same time, I mean, we're just going to have access to no quarterbacks if we decide to pass on someone here. So we honestly kind of had to go with that direction. Running back is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Are these really the best running backs available? Yeah, we butchered this draft. We treated this draft exactly how we would have treated a draft coming into the season. And we just need to be making the adjustment. I'm happy that we got this practice draft in. That way, when we go through all the drafts tonight, we definitely can make an adjustment. We're going to be pushing wide receivers down our board. We're going to be pushing running backs up our board. We've had a lot of success so far on Underdog. And what we did throughout the entire process is just go through and draft wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. Try to get that elite tight end and bring in wide receivers early. I guess now, based on the change in landscape that we have had, we have to be bumping up these running backs because picking Damian Williams at the 1409 doesn't necessarily feel fantastic. Let me show y'all the draft board so far. I think our draft was very solid until we got to about this range where we took Corey Davis in at the 704. I think this Corey Davis selection was just so damn bad. We said it was bad the second that we put it. But yeah, I think there are a multitude of different ways that we could have gone instead of Corey Davis, but Corey Davis was never the correct answer here. Then scrolling down just slightly, I mean, I guess here I'm perfectly fine with the Kenny Golladay selection. I'm perfectly fine with the Michael Gallup selection. Laviska Shenault, probably another bad pick. I think the pick we should have gone with here would have been A.J. Dillon. I would really like this team a lot more if we decide to pass on Laviska, go with A.J. Dillon. Yeah, so there are 2 bad picks on this draft that I think we need to be learning from. That way in our next draft that we're going to be doing tonight, the night after that, y'all know we're going to be getting into a million of these drafts on the live stream. So of course, if you want to draft with us on the live stream, go through, use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, get the max deposit bonus, and at the same time, get daily entries to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat, support this channel more than you would ever believe, and have a ton of fun. And I don't know if I said you already get that max deposit bonus if you go through the link in the live stream and use promo code FLOCK. Okay, now let's see what we're going to be doing with our next selection here. We're not going to be taking 2-3 quarterbacks here. When we have 4 running backs, I think we're fine to go back to the wide receiver position. And I wouldn't do this if it wasn't for the... You know what? Actually, I think we have a really easy selection here. I mean, Russell Gage, we should expect him to come back most likely next week. If Russell Gage is coming back next week, the reason we're taking him over some of these wide receivers is like, I wouldn't want Russell Gage over them in a vacuum. But a big thing is when we have Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley to bring in the double stack here, I think it would make a lot of sense. And keep in mind, this league does not start until week 4. So Tim Patrick goes off directly after. I think Tim Patrick, if we're playing in a regular league right now, you definitely prefer having Tim Patrick over Russell Gage. But a big issue is that by the time this league actually starts in week 6, Jerry Jeudy may be making his way back from that high ankle sprain. I mean, just relegating Tim Patrick to the 4th option on this offense. And at the same time, Tim Patrick doesn't fit our construction where we do get the double stack here with Russell Gage, Calvin Ridley, and Matt Ryan. Okay, now Matt coming out says, I'm 0-3, most points against RIP, says, and lost Christian McCaffrey this week. Worth trading Justin Jefferson for Joe Mixon. Other wide receivers are Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman. Running back 1 is Darrell Henderson. Obviously, you need to trade for a running back right now, Matt, and I'm sorry to give you this news because obviously it's the last thing that you probably want to hear. But when we're 0-3, I mean, obviously just having the most points scored against you is just as unlucky as it gets. But we have to be making the adjustment, understanding that we can't necessarily just prioritize long-term upside over and over again. Instead, we're definitely have to be trying to find a way that we can get some current production into the starting lineup ASAP, knowing we need that production now to make sure we don't fall to 0-4. If you fall to 0-4, it's going to be very hard to try to work your way back from that hole. So I think we're going to try to prioritize getting production in here right now. How we are going to be doing that is we're going to most likely trade away Christian McCaffrey. And it sucks to say, but if we can go through, trade Christian McCaffrey away from for Austin Eckler, I mean, if we can get Najee Harris and then also an upgrade at wide receiver, a running back in that tier, I think would be fantastic. Joshua says full PPR, Isaiah Taylor and Cordell Patterson for DeAndre Swift. Okay, I'm assuming you meant Jonathan Taylor here. So yeah, I would prefer most likely to have just DeAndre Swift over Jonathan Taylor and Cordell Patterson. The problem with Jonathan Taylor, trust me, I loved him coming into this season. I mean, I'm having to sit here and take an L on everywhere we actually drafted him. The problem with Jonathan Taylor is that Quentin Nelson injury. I mean, that Quentin Nelson injury is just going to be a blow for this entire Indianapolis Colts offense. So we are most likely just going to be looking to avoid that. Now, Daniel Jones at the 15-10. Let me give everybody here a shout out that's gone down there, dropped a like on this live stream, and supported the channel with dropping likes on videos, leaving comments and everything. We just passed 46,000 subscribers. That is massive. We passed 45,000 on Sunday. It's just Tuesday right now. Passing 46,000 is unbelievable. Thank you so much, everybody, for all of the support that y'all have showed this channel. I think a realistic goal that we should have for this season is 60,000. 60,000 by the end of the year would be fantastic. Pat Frymuth at the 15-12. So keep in mind, we took Darren Waller here. So, I mean, I'm not panicking on tight end at all. When we take Darren Waller, we're most likely just going to go through and try to wait it out the best we can to get our last tight end as late as possible. You know, one thing that we also need to really consider with this overall setup that this league doesn't start until week 6. We need to look to see what teams have bye weeks in weeks 5. Okay, we need to pull this up. Actually, okay, no. So bye weeks start in week 6 this year, considering that they have the extra week. Okay, so never mind. That's not a big play for us. That's not going to be a big play. Okay, so Dawson Knox at the 1603. Where did Dalton Schultz go in this draft? Is Dalton Schultz still available? Looks like he is. That's very surprising to see now Blake Jarwin going ahead of Dalton Schultz. Now let's pull this up. We're most likely going to be taking one more running back here. One more running back, then one more tight end. You know what? We may cap it at wide receiver. This is a team that's not good. They just killed us. Cal Juszczyk going at the 1606. Very surprising to see that pick. Okay, raw 93.068 on the clock here. So you have both KJ Hamler and James White getting drafted in this league. KJ Hamler and James White. Okay, so I guess there's just free money to be had in these drafts, to be honest. Okay, Cedric Wilson. Okay, now I think we have the easiest selection ever. We're going to be taking Carlos Hyde here. I mean, with Carlos Hyde, he definitely has a solid floor that we could use at our running back 2 spot during the bye week stretches. We're really hoping that he gets some usage at the goal line if we're going to be taking him here. Let me show y'all this draft board. This is our team here at the 104. I mean, through the first 4 rounds, this team was a monster. It was a monster through the first 4 rounds. Scroll this down just slightly as well. We got 2 rounds left. 2 rounds left. And what we're most likely going to do is make this the only draft that we're doing today. That way y'all can all go sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK and get into drafts with us tonight. But yeah, we're most likely going to make this the only draft that we're doing right now. And then we can go through and try to make some more videos for tomorrow. I mean, I still have to make 3 videos. I have to go to CrossFit in like 3.5 hours. Okay, so from here, I guess our last 2 selections are going to be at least one guy at tight end. So we can just take Adam Troutman here if we need to. We're just going to take Adam Troutman. It's disgusting, but who else are we supposed to take? Who else are we supposed to take? We took Darren Waller here, where Darren Waller is going to be hitting our starting lineup at every given week. Doesn't really... Right after we call out Dalton Schultz being a fantastic value, I'm too lazy to go through and scroll through and try to find more tight ends. So we make the worst pick of the draft. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That is horrendous. That is horrendous. Cody says, I did a $250 best ball tournament with you, and you talked down on my picks through the whole live stream, and I'm in first after 3 weeks, and you're in 11th out of 12. Be less critical of others. Big fella, I did 20 $250 drafts coming into the year, and I'm in first in 6 of them right now. Do you see me running victory laps on that? No, and that's way more impressive than you being first in a single one, big fella. So I would say after 3 weeks, probably a little too early to be running victory laps. Okay. So now Byron Pringle at the 1707, Gabriel Davis at the 1708. Oh my gosh, we just butchered this draft. We did so bad on this draft. We're gonna have to readjust. We're gonna have to regroup, study this draft board for the draft tonight. As we've had 3 picks now that are horrendous. Let me highlight the picks that are bad. And I know we always go through and we always talk about the picks that I mess up, but this is how you get better in fantasy football drafts. And we definitely need to make sure we're optimizing our draft strategy right now. Okay, so first mistake going through, taking Corey Davis here at the 704. There are a million different ways that we could have taken this. We could have taken this with either just a different wide receiver with Hollywood, Marvin, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy. Honestly, any of those wide receivers would have probably been better than Corey Davis. We could have gone with an elite quarterback in either Aaron Rodgers or Matthew Stafford. I think that would have been fine as well. And then our next mistake was going with a Laviska Shenault here over one of these running backs More specifically, our mistake was going Laviska Shenault over A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon was definitely the player that we're wanting here. And then our third mistake was going to be Adam Troutman at the 1704 over Dalton Schultz, even though halfway through the 16th round, we said Dalton Schultz was the best player available. I mean, this is kind of the price of live streaming, having to talk through all these picks and at the same time trying to come away with the draft. And Scissors says, I love my team aside from the 2 picks you called out. Yeah, let's go through and let's check out Scissors' team real quick. We actually drafted here at the 110. Diggs at the 110, I'm fine with. Zeke at the 203, I do like that value. Godwin, Adam Thielen. Yeah, we already talked about this. Love the Godwin pick. I think with Adam Thielen here, we most likely would have gone George Kittle. Hunt, great selection. James Robinson, probably one of the best values of the draft, taking Robinson in the same round as Miles Sanders, Tony Pollard, Myles Gaskin, Chase Edmonds. Don't even really love James Robinson, but that is massive value. Brandon Ayuk, great pick here. Aaron Rodgers. I was honestly not a fan of this pick when you made it, but I think that's just a mistake in me not necessarily making the adjustment into this draft for the midseason draft compared to the draft coming into the year. I think you're right about taking a quarterback here. Leonard Fournette at the 1003. Not a massive fan of Fournette at the 1003. I would have definitely preferred you to go with Zach Moss or A.J. Dillon. Dallas Goedert we're fine with. Terrace Marshall, I like the pick. Cordell Patterson, it's whatever. Hunter Renfrow, yeah, like we said, this was a very bad pick because Michael Thomas was just hiding down there in ADP. But now, I guarantee you, Michael Thomas is going to be skyrocketing. So please go get in some of these drafts right now and get Michael Thomas in the 10th round before it's too late. Because I'm telling you, when the ADP list gets set here, whenever you have a lot of drafts going in, Michael Thomas is going to be flying upwards. Okay, so from here, we're essentially just wide receiver or running back. I think at wide receiver, if we were going to want to go with someone, we're most likely just going to end up... Actually, let me scroll down. Just to make sure we're not missing anybody. They have Trent Sherfield up here. Yeah, we have to go with the wide receiver. We can't go with another running back. At wide receiver, when is Nico Collins coming back? We're just going to take Amaro St. Brown, maybe hoping that he does increase that role by the time we get to the playoffs. But yeah, let me show you all this draft board really quick. Y'all can go through, y'all can pause it, take a screenshot, whatever y'all want to do. And yeah, thank you all coming out, hanging out with us in this live stream. We will definitely go through and get another draft going tonight. Oh, that was a brutal one. We made some massive mistakes. We are going to correct those mistakes going into the draft that we should have going on tonight. We're going to do another one tomorrow night. We're going to be doing these a ton over the next few weeks. So make sure you go down there and use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. You can find the link in the description of the video. You can get into these drafts with us on the live stream. You can come take my money at the same time. You get daily entries to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. And to go along with this, what else are you getting? You're getting a max deposit bonus with promo code FLOCK. Will Lane says, would you drop Allen Robinson for Brandon Ayuk? No, I would not do that. And yeah, thank you so much for everybody coming out, hanging out with us in this live stream. I hope to see you in the one tomorrow night. And yeah, I hope that you go use